I am so excited for today's episode of the No Sugarcoating podcast because I have one of my lovely clients that I guided in 2022. Katherine is with me. Welcome and thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm just so happy to be here, Amber.
Well, I mean, we're going to have a great conversation today about you and your journey and like what prompted you to reach out because I find for the women listening to this podcast, it's always so refreshing to hear from women who have come in and, gone through the support and seen, massive change and miracles and healing happen. So, we're going to dive into that, dive into this journey that you decided to come on with me. I think it was June where we connected and, we'd had the consultation and you decided to move forward. So why don't you first start, with a little bit about yourself and what prompted you to reach out for this support?
Sure. So a little bit about me is I've had a career in corporate healthcare for 40 years now, and I have two children. They're adults. Finally, they're off the all-inclusive plan, so which is very good for me. So I'm an empty nester, and I have a therapy dog named Sandy. So we do some volunteering together. And unfortunately, I lost my husband the fall before you and I met. You and I met in June, and throughout my life, I was that busy, businesswoman with two kids, taking care of them, having a husband, and they're, managing a relationship, family, friends, and just so much going on, never having time for myself and never making that time for myself. And, after he passed, things just got really out of hand. And I started, journaling, and it was just really, really negative. And I was listening in the car to another podcast about I think it was about just, helping, like, just your understanding your self-worth and, you know, taking care of your self-care. And you were the guest speaker on this other podcast. And when you spoke, you were like speaking to me. I just felt like this connection instantly. And I'm like, she understands what I'm going through right now. And I really hit rock bottom when I called you. I was at my lowest point, and I was like, and I'm reading through this journal that it wasn't anything good. And I thought, this isn't good. I can't continue to go on this way. So that's what prompted me to reach out to you.
Yeah. And what was your relationship with food like before we got started?
I, typically always on the go, running, not making time for meals, would eat in front of my computer, breakfast at work, eat lunch, a quick lunch. By the time I got home, I was starving. The kids were hungry, my husband was hungry, and then making dinner, eating quickly. And then throughout the night, just not feeling satisfied, eating in front of television. And then the next day, just waking up and, you know, exercising before work, getting ready, driving an hour to work. And it's just this vicious cycle where I wasn't at my top performance because of the night before, eating most of my calories in the evening, just because during the day, just didn't make that time for food. Nourishing food, and wasn't really listening to what my body was telling me. So at night was just a time to, like, oh, I want to just relax, chill, or watch some television, eating snacks or whatever, just because you're ravenous throughout the day. And then waking up in the morning and just not feeling very energetic, little brain fog, guilt, like, I got to get a hold of this, but not knowing how or why I was doing it, just knowing that I was busy, and I was on this, hamster wheel, just keep going.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. And did you know that you were emotionally eating before we got started? Did you have that awareness?
Not really. Like, I mean, I knew what I was doing wasn't healthy, and I knew I wanted to stop, But I didn't understand, you helped me a lot understanding the ego and things that we've learned, um, and triggers. And that thing, it didn't bring it to my full awareness of how to stop. I just knew I was doing it and I couldn't figure a way to stop it. I just attribute everything to my willpower and lack of willpower.
Right. Yeah. And isn't that what we learn? But it's so far from the truth, that it's about willpower.
Yeah, and it's not about willpower, which I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean it's not willpower? I need more willpower. I need to stop doing this. And you're like, it has nothing to do with that. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that because it's so fascinating because I went through it too, but just like this expectation we've put on ourselves in this one lane of like more willpower, more discipline that we assume is what we need when there's like this whole other realm around us of things to explore and discover, but that's the thing that we were taught, and so I'm so glad that you were able to build that awareness as we got working together around like the triggers and your ego, which I'm want you to share more about in a minute. And I'm curious because we worked together for 6 months, and I'm curious like what prompted you to pick that because it's always interesting to hear what prompts someone to pick the program, the amount of time. So what prompted you to come in for 6 months?
So after we had the consultation and you shared with me that we would be doing a lab work, I was going to get a lab core and find out what my cortisol level was. And I was like, what's cortisol? Like, what am I doing? I know it's a stress, you're like, yes, we're going to check your stress and see where you are so I can begin to help you because that's what we want to do. That's the goal is to get, because I know that your cortisol is probably through the roof, and it was pretty high when we did that. And then you were telling me that there was ways that we could reduce that through different techniques, and there was tapping and mind mapping and all these things that I've never heard of. And I started to do a little bit digging, and I was realized that wow, these things have helped a lot of other people. I have never been aware of it. And I knew it would take time because um, I'm 60 years old now, and I think I started, not having a good relationship with food since I hit puberty. And I mean, I just blamed myself, so much guilt that why didn't I change things sooner? Like, why did I wait so long? And just beating myself up of the guilt of wasting that much time. And when I spoke to you in our consultation, you were like, it's you didn't know any better. That's what you learned is you didn't know, your parents didn't know. And I really took that in, and I just knew that it was going to take some work. And, you know, over all of that period of time to change that with one consultation was not going to help. And probably a month wasn't going to be good enough. So I felt within 6 months, um, that I really needed that time to work at it. And you were an incredible coach. I mean, and you were hard on me at times,
Tough love.
um, tough love, but it worked for me. And nothing else worked. Nothing else worked. Tried lots of different diets, but this did work for me. And I never thought that would say that I have such a really good relationship with food right now, and I feel my self-worth. And the amazing thing too, and you were so right, is put the work in, it will get easier. And I kept thinking, this is the hardest thing, it's the hardest thing. But
Mhm.
you're so right. I had just a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, a wonderful Christmas holiday without the guilt of, oh, I'm so stuffed. I can't, and stressed. And I didn't have any of that. I hosted large groups of people, and I was just present. I was in the moment. I was enjoying it. I treated myself, but it wasn't to the point of where you're feeling guilty and sick about it. And it was the best holiday I had in my life.
Wow, that's significant. Isn't it so freeing to just be able to be present and enjoy versus have all this other chaotic energy and emotion floating around?
It's so freeing. I mean, I wake up every morning and I have so much energy to start the day. And things I worked else with you is like we always started our sessions with, so what is your intention? And I start every morning with like, what is my intention for today? And and today it was just about today was my first day back at work. I was on vacation, just being, the first day back in a new year, you kind of had those feelings like, oh no, but I was gonna just approach work with, you know what? I get to go to work. Not that I have to work, but I get to do this. And I'm going to take my time and I'm going to go through each email and I'm just going to be calm and have a candle and have I have some scented oils, which I would never do any of that until I met you. But today, the first day getting back, it was actually a very joyful experience.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that. And again, it's these little self-care tools and bits and pieces that we bring into the environment that assist in the grounding and the relaxing and having that joy-filled day, right?
Yes,
Just those little
absolutely.
efforts. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad that you had such a good Christmas and Thanksgiving and just a whole different experience. And this is what it gets to be moving forward for holidays, for travel, food experiences now get to be joy filled and enjoyable and more memories made in the presence of the experience versus all the guilt and other things that used to come along with it. And this is what we're all meant to experience, and we forget that because we get so stuck in the past behaviors, and we think that that's as good as it's going to get, and it has to be a fight and a struggle. When for you in the journey did you start to realize that you were actually going to heal this and gain freedom from this?
Probably, um, I guess probably around, I mean, we started in June. It was probably a couple months in that I started to keep, I have a calendar by my desk and I would put, like a just mark it with black marker if I did everything, I did the things I wanted to do. I didn't self-sabotage. I did some self-care that day. And I would put a red line through the days that I did something where I did feel the guilt and the brain, all the old habits were coming in. And then I reflected on that. And you gave me a lot of tools of how to reflect on that and how to mind shift that and not to feel guilty. But that was another opportunity to learn. And what was that trigger? What was the thing that set you? And take a moment and think about it. And I noticed on my calendar, where there was lots of red marks, so certain months that I flipped the calendar, there was less red and then less red. And then, in the month of December, out of the whole month, there was only 3 red marks. And that the month of December with all the parties and holidays and everything, there was only 3 days out of the whole month where I didn't maybe do self-care or I maybe overindulged more than I should have and I didn't feel good about it or my digestion was off or something like that, that I knew that it was because of me. And I didn't feel guilty. I felt it was a learning experience.
Mhm.
And I quickly used the tools that you gave me to journal or to tap and to figure out what it was. And I was able to figure out what set it off.
Yeah, and that's amazing, right? So we're always going to have learning experiences that come up. And I find where the mastery is once we really start getting on this healing journey is we start catching it and shifting out of it sooner. And a bad hour or a misaligned day, that's all it is. It doesn't turn into weeks, months, and more years
Right.
of it, right? Because you have the tools and you know how to shift.
Mhm.
So I think
Absolutely.
that's so potent because if we don't know, well, how do we change it? Right.
And I think the one thing too that you really helped me with is forgiving myself.
Mm.
That again, it was what I learned. It was what my parents, they did the best that they could. And when you start to understand that it's not your fault and that these are just your thoughts and they're not true, it's really what's going on in your head, but really your heart. It made such a difference, Amber, in my life. And the food issue was the main issue. I came to you, but what I found with you, there was a mind, a spiritual part of it, and then the body, like the holistic healing. Um, really, for me, all came together with you, um, and that's where I think you offer. I know that you're more towards the overeating, but I think that you have so much more to offer beyond that, because you share with me things that I was never a spiritual person. And I have to say, I am a spiritual person now today because of you.
Mhm.
And I'm so much more mindful. I know how to quiet my thoughts. Um, I know you and I share that I'm a terrible sleeper. I have insomnia, but I've been doing meditation at night before I go to bed. And my daughter, like when she was here over the holiday break, she's like, "Mom, you snore." And I'm like, "Really? I do?" That means I'm sleeping.
Yes, amazing. You're sleeping. What a miracle.
So I think, you've given me much more beyond the self-sabotage with food to conquer that. You gave me much more of that. So I feel the holistic approach that you took with me, that's where I really benefited the most.
Yeah, and thank you. And I think this is the thing, right, that I notice with all of my clients is I start to feel into, okay, how open are they? How open? Because I can go really deep with stuff. And it really depends on the person because some people are so open to all of it, like you were, it just naturally unfolded, and some people don't want some of it. So this is where it's like really feeling into each woman who comes in and going, okay, let's set this pace for this journey and start planting seeds and see if they're willing because we on some level, well, I mean, we're energy. Like if you rub a balloon on the couch and your hair go right, like that's the electricity. Like we are energy. We are these light filled beings, and I think it's so important, as we heal, we discover these deeper parts of ourselves, and it's nothing to fear. It's empowering. It gives you more ease, peace, freedom, connection, happiness, right? However, we need to get the conditioning out of the way, that's not part of who we are. So I'm so glad that you were open and how it organically unfolded with, the whole holistic healing, and that you have discovered these deeper parts of you and your spirituality as well and your intuition, and it's a gift because it gives you access to more freedom, and that's what I think it does for anyone who's willing and open. So I actually want to take some time and have you share a bit about the mindset work. So we obviously worked on healing your relationship with food, the emotional eating. So if there's anything you want to share around like tools or support that you think really helped you like overcome that, let's start there, and then I want to talk about the ego after that.
Sure. The three that I use the most is tapping. Tapping is just a great way to just shift your mind, and it feels so peaceful, and it's something that I can do like in 5 minutes, and sometimes I want to do it longer. And you helped me in the beginning write scripts that I would read to help me through tapping, and now it just comes naturally. I don't need a script. I know what's bothering me, and I know how to tap out the negative energy and mind shift to more of a positive place. And so the tapping really was one of the tools that I use a lot for my self-care that I've learned from you. The second is I journaled a little bit, but really getting into journaling, and you giving us as a group and also in my individual sessions techniques for journaling. And I find that journaling has really helped me. And gosh, when I read back at how it started and where I am now, it's so much more positive when I'm writing. And there's so much gratitude in there of what I'm writing, where before it was just about sabotage and feeling guilt. And it was now my time is, I'm just so much open for just new things. And
Mhm.
I'm reading more. I always said I'm going to read more books, but some of the books you recommended, I've read them, and they really made a difference in my life. So definitely the journaling, and then the meditation. I think that you gave us, and I say us because we do have within the membership, there is sessions that you offer as well as the individual consultation, and I tried to attend many of those sessions as well as always our consultations I look forward to. But I think the meditation, different ways to meditate, different ways to visualize, and I often use those as well, to quiet the mind. So they're the three that I use most often,
Mhm.
um, and to really help with the mind.
Yeah. And so when we started learning about the ego, like what was that experience like for you? Because I assume for most of my clients, it's not something you probably really heard about or know a lot about before you start the journey. So what was that experience like for you?
I didn't know anything about the ego. And when you started talking about it, I started taking notes and I couldn't stop writing and just taking notes and reading them over. And then there were some books you recommended and I read them and then looked things up. So I mean, I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of everything you taught me. Like there's so much more I want to learn. I'm like,
Yes.
I just can't wait. Like even away on my trip, I bought 2 books and I got through 2 books. Like
Wow.
I never get through 2 books. It takes me one summer to get through a book, but it's so the information is so interesting. And I find that now I want to do something more to give back. I feel that I'm at a time in my life that I'm making a big shift and I want to continue to learn. And if I can help either one other person or 5 people or 10 people in any way I do it. I don't know if it's maybe going to help, develop a curriculum in a school because I think kids should learn this early on in their life
Yeah.
about their thoughts and with social media, I think it's hurting our youth. And I just think there's opportunities to get this into the schools.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's kind of where my passion is right now to help as many people as I can because of the things that you taught me. It was life changing and I always say you can't go back, but this was the time I was supposed to learn it.
Yeah.
And I just feel that I still have a lot of time to help somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the thing, as we heal, it is a ripple effect. We naturally do want to help others. It's one of our innate parts of being a human. Like human beings' natural state is to be in love, connection, and to assist, right? Like that's what's supposed to be. So every time someone heals, it is the ripple effect. And that's what I love about doing this and assisting incredible women like you that then, right? Like you discover other parts of your purpose and why you're here, and then you get to get on that path and explore it. And I've had so many women who change careers, who retire, who start businesses, who get more into volunteering, but all these new desires and callings flow in because you've now opened the space and you're thinking and behaving in a different way, and it opens the door. So I'm so excited that this is what's unfolded for you because we never know like what will be presented to us when we start this, right? So it's a gift.
Absolutely. And I think the real gift too is my daughter is 24 and I've influenced her in such a positive way that I didn't know I was doing, but she's now journaling and she's meditating and she's thinking about food differently and she feels so good about herself and
Yes.
she feels her worth and her value in this world and she asked for a raise at work and she was so afraid and I'm like, you have nothing to be fearful, you've earned this. And she got the raise
Amazing.
and yeah and I never said one word to my daughter about any of this. She just sees my actions. And so I'm influencing her in such a positive way that I wish I had that
Mhm.
at that age. But again, I've learned and now I'm passing that on and my daughter's going to pass it on to her kids. And it's just like this ripple effect, which
Yeah.
that's what I think I'm most proud of if is how I'm influencing my daughter in such a positive way. She read 2 books. She goes, Mom, I can't believe I read 2 books too. And
Amazing.
and they're all about, again, knowing your worth and especially I just think for women still today in the corporate world, it's not as easy,
Mhm.
especially with COVID and working remotely. It's difficult to build those relationships to show your worth. And she hears just one thing over like a Zoom call, and she just comes crashing down. And now she's learning, like, no, that's somebody just said that, but they're not, that's not who you are,
Yeah.
and she talks about talking, it's like stepping into her new identity. And I just love it. And I'm like, this is what she's getting. Like, where does she get this from? And I know it's from me. And
Yeah.
I never said you should be doing this or that. I'm just doing it. And she's just following in my footsteps.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of us just being on our journey and being so detached from anyone else picking up on it, because when we are on our healing journey, we set an invisible energetic standard and those that are meant to receive something from it just do. Like I look at my hubby and I'm like, I have been on a healing journey for 14 years. I've spent like so much money on like energy healing and body talk and like business coaching and like all of these things. And then he comes along and he is receptive and open, you know, to the ego. And he's now very open to his spirituality and all of these things. And I'm like, he didn't spend a cent. He just, you know, like this, and I didn't push any of it on him either. He just like took it on and like felt so resonant for him. And it's like, that's the beauty of this, is you don't realize the significant impact you're having, even if you don't say anything, because it's who you're being, it's the energy you're emitting, it's the power and the love. And that's what I love about one person choosing to heal, is just you do not know how you're impacting others, right? It's
Absolutely.
I'm so happy to hear that, and that's the ripple flow that's been happening for you and for her, and it will continue on. So so say, let's just say prior to working together versus now, like define the difference between maybe feeling more out of your power or disempowered versus being in your power, because this is a huge thing that, you know, shifts when we start this healing.
I have incredible power now. I'm not people pleasing. I'm making time for myself. I've always felt that I'm a planner, so my calendar clutter. I mean, I would make sure that I had something on that calendar. I had to go here and I had to do this. And now I know I have to make that space for myself. I need some time to myself. You know, if it's just going out and taking a nice long walk with my dog and um, just spending that alone, that quiet time. And um, it is just your self-worth and who you are, you know what you want, and you set up these boundaries that people just can't cross, you know, and you're not doing it in a mean way
No.
whatsoever, but you have to do that. And I just that whole busy feeling and the whole thing of I got to get this done. I don't feel that way anymore. It's like even anything I do, whether it's brushing my teeth, folding clothes, like I'm doing it in a mindful way, in a slow way. And I just feel this power that I'll get done what I have to get done, but I'm happy. You know, this is what life is about. So, and I never felt that power. I never felt that worthiness before. And I feel so much of that now, and that I deserve that. So I deserve to be happy and to be at peace. And
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah. And what a shift. What a shift. And I love this. When we're in mindfulness, we are fully in our power. And any experience gets to be enjoyable because we're more present. So I love the fact that, like you said, whether it's brushing your teeth or laundry, whatever it is, like life is a completely different experience when you're in your power.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And so what I would love to hear more of now, because this is something that unfolded, I can't remember exactly when we started to kind of like explore more of the spiritual side, because I think, you know, what started happening is you're tuning into being more sensitive to energy and starting to tap more into your intuition, and these things just started organically opening up in our sessions. So do you want to share a little bit about the unexpected like soul spiritual opening that occurred for you as we went on the journey?
Yeah, it started to occur to me that I mean in this vast universe, you know, I'm a small piece of this universe, but there's so much vastness there that I can get to take in, you know, where I wasn't taking in as much as there is to offer. Because I was such in this certain mindset of this is how things had to be. This is what I learned, you know, work hard, do what
Mm-hmm.
you have to do, keep going, no time for yourself, you know. But I realized that, you know, that this vastness, there's so many more things that I want to learn and grow from a spiritual perspective, and just being at such inner peace with that. Um, Knowing who I am and what I want out of life, and knowing that, you know, I always felt like, oh, I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time, but I don't feel that way, because I do feel this, you know, we have this, you know, our souls, you know, eternal, and
Mm-hmm.
this is just, I learned, and this is just going to get me as I go to the next step of wherever that journey is after
Yeah.
I'll leave this world. It's only going to get better and better because we learn each time. And that I never thought about that before. But there was enough, things that you recommended to look at, or, things of interest. And again, you're not one to push things. You just kind of suggest, and everything that you suggested, it just made sense to me. I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. It really does. Um, so for me, it's really been life changing.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that for you. And I'm so glad that these things just unfolded naturally. And we know when something is appealing to us and we want to just soak up everything like a sponge, that there's just such a deep resonance. It's like a coming home to yourself and really remembering who you really are, which is power, love, and light. And you are a beautiful piece of this universe, right? Just like we all are. And it's remembering that.
Yeah.
What were your favorite parts of the work we did together?
I love the one-on-one consultations to have you all to myself because I always walked away no matter what the session was. Like even coming to the session, maybe I wasn't feeling my best self, or there was some sabotage, or I wasn't doing the things that you suggested. And you always like were just the best coach and just positive, and you would not give up on me. And I think that you just I felt like after talking to you, I had this power that, yes, I can do this. I can do this. Just put the work in, Katherine, and you can do it. And that was my favorite part, that I began to see the change each time we met. And if I felt that, I needed your help, you were there, and you always were like about forgiveness and forgiving yourself, and don't feel guilty. Keep it as a learning experience. So every session we had, I learned something new, and I always felt better leaving the session than when I came in.
Yeah, which is huge. And yeah, it's so nice to have that one-on-one connection because we can just go so deep into whatever you need. And the beauty of it is when you in a session can work through and let go of the guilt, well, your vibration comes up. And every
Mhm.
time, right, you're willing to let something go, you feel lighter. And that's part of, what I'm so grateful that you and the women that come forth get to take away is then you have it for life, right? Like
Right.
you get to take that away and continue to use these tools and awarenesses. Now, what was the hardest part about the coaching and the work together?
Just getting into the habit of the self-care, making the time. Um, we live busy lives. Everybody lives busy lives. And I don't like to use the word busy anymore. I like to use the word full. Our lives are full. I think that's such a better
Yes.
word. But uh, I, it's like anything else. It's if you really want to change something, you have to put the time in. So, and it's just like eating or sleeping or showering. It just became a part of who I was.
Mhm.
But like any habit, you have to put the time in and you have to do it. And I did that, but that was the hardest part. Like, in the beginning, it's just like anything. If you're learning to play the guitar, or learning to sing or dance, those beginning sessions, or even me with technology, it's like, oh, I want to kill this computer, but the computer's right. Like, if I just follow the steps and keep with it, all of a sudden it becomes magic. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know I could do all this stuff with my computer. And that's how it was. It was like magic. It was like all of a sudden I was putting all the work in, and then it got easier. And then it just became a part of me. And then I was looking forward to like just a Saturday where I could spend the whole day of just taking care of myself. And I was like,
Yes.
wow, this is incredible. And I know for some women and men, they don't have a whole day, but you'll actually be able to start cutting out things that don't serve you and making that space and that time, even if it's 5, 10 minutes, it truly is life changing, just even a little bit of
Mhm.
time. And you're going to want more and more of it.
Right? That's the thing. And it's hard to describe to people until they get like, you are going to crave it. And then you're going to want to protect and nurture that time because you really experience and feel the shift of taking it. So I'm so glad that that light bulb went off for you because it's a complete shift now. Like it's part of your day. It's part of your
Yes.
lifestyle. And it's so great when we get to that point. So I'm glad you stuck with me through that one. I'm like, we're going to get there, but sometimes we have to keep with the same things because there's the ego to deal with, and it takes time to build these habits, right? So this is where the patience and the compassion is so important, because if we've been in a certain habit or pattern for years, like, we have to understand it's going to take time to change it. So I'm glad that you kept along with that one with me, because I knew that the switch would flip at some point. So
Yes, yes,
is it,
absolutely.
yeah, and it's, self-care is great. I love self-care. Is there anything else you want to share? Any other like thoughts or part of your experience?
I just want, your listeners to know that you're the real deal. I mean, mind, body, soul, if you're open to it, be open-minded, and if there's just a few things that you can take from Amber, it truly is life-changing. And for me, in my age, I never thought that I could be living this life where I am so happy where I am right now. And I feel that this is just the beginning of my journey. And I have so much more to learn. And I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you too. This is a big year of change for you.
Yes, it
And
is.
we're in a 7. So 2023 comes to a 7. And in numerology, it's like massive life change is the theme, and a spiritual upgrades and deeper spiritual connection. So, like, talk about synchronicity, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see what unfolds for you. Definitely, we're gonna have to stay in touch so you can update me on like what you're learning and what you're up to, and the ripple effect continuing, because it was just a pleasure to work with you for that 6 months, and to see the transformation and the shifts, and like feel the differences in your energy. Obviously, not that I'm judging my client's energy, but I can feel my client's energy when they're coming into a session and just more grounded each session, more grounded. And even if we started a session and there was stuff, by the end of the session, there's so much grounding, right? So this is the power of showing up to the sessions, but then showing up in life, right? To help assist yourself in the shift and the healing. And we all deserve to have this.
Yeah. And I have to tell you something funny, Amber. So, you know, I did decide to maybe start dating again. So I went onto a dating app, and I'm like, oh, my kids are like, well, this is the way you meet people. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But I haven't met, like, gone to lunch or done, I haven't met anybody in person, but I insist on talking to them first.
Yes.
And, you know, seeing their profile, they sound perfect and wonderful. But that conversation, this gentleman, everything on paper looked great, but the frequency after I spoke to him, it
Yeah.
was it was so low. And I was like, I just don't think maybe we should meet. But I can feel the frequency through the phone of talking to, and so I think that I can. I want to be with people with a higher frequency. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to settle for somebody that brings my frequency down, or it's
No.
just. But you feel other people's frequency, and I'm thinking, I wonder. I never noticed what kind of frequency I was putting out there before, but I'm sure it wasn't high. And now I'm feeling like I'm just attracting um, just people in my life that are just such wonderful human beings. And I think it's because of me. It's what I'm
Mhm.
putting out there and what I'm getting back.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been a good experience for me to be able to judge, to say, okay, no, I need somebody a little bit of a higher frequency, which
Yeah.
I would never say that before I met you. I wouldn't know what that meant.
Right. Yeah. And I love that you're really listening to that and tuning into that, because it's so important, and everyone vibrates at a different frequency. And the honest truth, and what we need to accept, is we're not a vibrational match for everyone. And some people vibrate at lower and higher places, and it's not bad or wrong, regardless of where they are. But when we can gain clarity of what feels out of alignment for us, and not justify and ignore the red flags and the feeling, you know what I mean? Because otherwise we end up putting ourselves in circumstances and we're like, why did I do that? So
Right.
this intuition, this tuning in and feeling the energy and the frequency, is a gift that you've gotten to reaccess through this healing that you're doing and that you're going to continue to do. And it is a benefit and a bonus. So I'm so glad that you tuned in. It's the same for me. Like, I really noticed that going into fall and this year with like potential new clients coming in. Like my body is just like yelling, like, this is a no, like, this is a no, like, do not, like, it's not a match. Like, do not take this person on as a client. We will not feel good if you do. Right. And it's like listening to that versus the ego going, oh, but you can help this person and the money
Right.
and all. And it's like, no, like it's a no. So I'm going to lovingly honor that. And the more we heal, the more we get to tune into these subtle senses, which are of huge benefit. Right.
Yes.
So I'm so happy to hear that you are online dating. I think it's great. And I'm so excited. You're gonna totally vibrate and like attract this incredible man in, honestly. Like look at what you're already attracting. You're a magnet, right? You're a manifesting magnet and we're mirrors. So of course you're gonna keep attracting all these incredible things because you're doing the inner work and then you emit out. And we all have our days where we're in a low vibe, but that's fine. We come back up. So this is huge.
Yeah. And the thing too, Amber, even if I don't meet anybody, I'm so happy with that the universe is going to put in my life what is meant to happen. So if it's
Yes.
not that, it's going to be something else.
Yes.
And the other thing I talked to you about is I'm really never alone. I'm really not.
Mhm.
When you truly know who you are and and you're so happy to be who you are in your body and in your soul, you're really never alone. You just enjoy being with yourself. And I
Mhm.
find that I do I do like being with myself, and having my companion dog here. Her and I have a
Yes.
great time together. So if somebody extraordinary comes to my life, that's great. But if they don't, that's a
Yeah.
great too. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? There's so many things
Yes.
that life has to offer. It doesn't have to be that way. So I just believe that the universe is going to take care of me. And thanks to you, you shared a lot of that and how that
Oh,
works. So thank you.
oh, my pleasure. And you are so taken care of by the universe. And I'm so glad that you've opened up to leaning back into that now because we all are. We just need to realign ourselves so that we can see it that way. So I'm so grateful that we got to take this time today. And thank you so much for sharing your heart and your experience with the listeners. It honestly was a true pleasure to support you for the 6 months. It went by so fast.
Yes.
And it's just incredible to see you come out the other side in your power and accessing your intuition and really, continuing to commit to your embodiment of your healing and doing this deeper work. So thank you for being on the show. I'm just so grateful for you.
And thank you for showing me my worth. I mean, I I feel my power because of you. So again, Amber, what you do, just keep doing it. You're just helping so many people, and I love what you're putting out there. We need more of it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I promise for as long as I'm on the planet, I'm going to be doing this. So,
Good.
yes, so it is the purpose. So, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. And again, for Katherine for being on. I hope this was a helpful podcast for you to hear another experience of a client and their journey. So, we will see you again next week and sending you all so much love.